Good day. I am Joan Underwood, the president of HRMAB, and I'm pleased to have with me Sophia Mings-Mascoll from the National Insurance Scheme. So thank you so much for joining us, Mrs. Mings-Mascoll. Would you please introduce yourself to the members of HRMAB?
Good morning. My name is Sophia Mings-Mascoll, and I am currently the head of compliance, severance, and registration at the National Insurance Office.
Okay, so given your responsibilities in relation to compliance, I can't think of a better suited person to answer this next question. What are the primary responsibilities of employers when it comes to their relationship with NIS?
The primary responsibility of an employer, first thing, is to register with the National Insurance Scheme if you have employees. And when you register as an employer, you're given a specific national insurance number where you use that to identify you with, and it helps with identification of the employees who you hire. And it also helps with respect to your obligations to the NIS because we track you by that number. An employer is a person who employs one or more persons. When you come to the office, you'll also be given an employer booklet, which would indicate or which will guide you as an employer what you should and shouldn't do. Another responsibility of the employer is to keep some kind of wages book or records of the employees' hours of work. These are important because then you need to file contribution schedules for an employee. You also have to make note of, and you should know, the national insurance number for each employee. Every month, the employer is required to submit a schedule of the of the earnings or payment made to that employee. The employer is required to make the relevant deductions from the employee and also submit the relevant deductions on behalf of the employer to the National Insurance Scheme every month.
Now, a few questions come to mind based on what you've just shared. You mentioned a booklet. Is that booklet available online so that persons could download it?
No. When you say a booklet, you mean the wages booklet, wages records?
No, you said that there's a booklet that employers get when they register, which would outline their responsibilities. How can they get, apart from coming into the office, is there another way that they could get access to that information?
I believe online you have tips, but I don't believe this booklet is available online. But currently you can come to the office or you can ask for the booklet to be mailed to you.
Oh, okay, so mailing is an option. All right, now you mentioned employers. Our membership also includes consultants, independent consultants. So what would be the requirements for such persons who are not employees per se, they're not employers, but operate in their own capacity?
All right, let me first say, the National Insurance reserves the right to determine who is self-employed or an employee. So I would advise that if you're unclear which category you fall under, you should first seek advice from the office on how to go forward with that. If you are a self-employed person, then you're required to pay quarterly. And the quarters begin, we have 4 quarters in a year. You must register first as a self-employed person, but we know we have some persons out there who would have registered as an employee first and maybe then became self-employed. You still retain your same national insurance number that you had, well, if you were an employee, but then when you come, you fill out a specific type of the form which states for a self-employed person. You still retain that number, but there are changes that we need to make into our system that will specifically identify you as a self-employed person and allows you to pay as a self-employed person. Currently, self-employed must pay by 17.1% of what they earn. And as I stated before, the year is divided into 4 quarters. So a self-employed person is required to report quarterly, and you're required to report January, February, March as 1 quarter, April, May, June, July, August, September, and October, November, December. And it follows January, February, March is due April the 15th, and then you go on like that. April, May, June is due June the 15th, and you'll be given schedules that you fill out as a self-employed person. And these schedules guide you on the payments and when the day is due.
All right, so what if there's a situation where an individual, in addition to having a full-time job, has a side hustle, so to speak, so they're doing maybe some consulting work on the side? What, if any, obligations do they have to NIS in relation to that secondary income?
All right. A person cannot be both self-employed and employee at the same time. You can only be one category. And the category of the employee takes precedence over the self-employed, because as an employee, you have more benefits under that than being a self-employed person. And remember, this is a social security scheme. So currently, as an employee, you will have more benefits under, it will be more beneficial to you because you will be able to be eligible for severance. I think that's not covered as a self-employed person. Injury on the job and unemployment. So as an employee, because there are more benefits, we always say that that takes precedence over a self-employed person. That is if you're doing both. In addition, remember that the NIS has a cap. So although you might be as an employee and you're already paying at your maximum, then you will not be required to pay as a self-employed person then, and to go over that maximum. So you can only be one at a time, one category.
Okay, thank you.
Suppose the employee stops, well, suppose you start being as an employee and it may be in the middle of the year and then you want to continue as a self-employed person, but 2 at the same time, no.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Now, given your duties and responsibilities related to compliance, what are the 2 or 3 things that most often come across your desk with employers not being compliant?
All right, currently we are having a lot of issues where persons are being identified by an employer as self-employed persons. And as I said, the NIS, National Insurance, reserves the right to advise or state who is indeed self-employed or an employee. Secondly, employers, a lot of them don't file as they should. It should be important to note that schedules are just as important as payments. And when you have an employee who, for one reason or the other, needs sick, who has become sick or unemployed or maternity, it is important that you submit the schedules so that we can have the employee's earnings and we can pay that employee. We always tell employers, if you cannot pay at that time, you should still submit the schedules. I think that's basically the most urgent ones at this time.
Okay, now in terms of record keeping, you've emphasized the importance of submitting the schedules, you've emphasized the importance of having the wage book. What are some of the deficiencies that you and your team have observed in terms of record keeping, and how does it impact NIS's ability to service beneficiaries?
When it comes to record keeping, you might find an employee would come to the National Insurance Department, and we have some employers who do this. The employee is not clear whether the national insurance is being deducted because they are not fully aware of how much they're being paid. So you don't have a wages book, or they don't keep proper wages records. The employee is unclear of how much they're being paid, what deductions are being made. In addition to that, the inspector visits the office. The inspector has a right to ask to view those wages records and examine them. You might have an employer who pays an employee, and then when it comes to reporting, they're on the report, so they don't have to pay the NIS the full amount that is owed. You might have an employer who might pay an employee, for example, $400. And then he reports to us that he pays the employee $300 a week. So you have instances like that. The inspector investigates those wages records in addition to also seeing how much people are employed. Because you can have instances where the employer also on the reports or might leave out persons and only report for some. So it's very important to keep wages records both for the inspector when he visits national insurance purposes and the employee. In addition, some employers might not, sometimes we don't think that something can happen to us as an employer. Suppose you die suddenly. Then we have cases where it's difficult for us to report or know before you suppose you die suddenly. And maybe you have your sole proprietor and you don't have any other directors. Then we have cases where we don't know, we don't have any wages records. You don't know how much you feel in the employee. Sometimes your wife or husband might be the only person left. They don't know much about your business. And then how do we find out how much you pay the employee and how do we go far from there? So it's very, very, very important.
Okay, tell us a bit more about the inspectors and their roles and how employers need to engage with your inspectors.
We're approximately, I think we have about 15 inspectors currently, and they're divided into areas. Now, the inspector, if you're a new employer, the inspector gives you guidance really on how to fill out the schedule, how to liaise with NIS. Actually, we see the inspector as really the link between the employer and the national insurance scheme. The inspector gives you general guidance on all areas of the national insurance, not only with respect to wages records. How do you go forward when you want to terminate an employee? What's the correct form? Suppose an employee gets injured on the job, the inspector will always liaise with you with that, especially if you're unclear. How to register for the portal. You can also liaise with the inspector on that, and also how to submit schedules and make payments on the portal.
So if I am a new HR practitioner in an organization that hasn't had that much structure in place and I want to regularize things, could I just contact NIS and ask for an inspector to meet with me for us to look at what obtains and to get guidance in terms of what systems need to be put in place?
If the systems relate to the national insurance, yes, you can.
Yes, okay, good. All right, now HR practitioners, in addition to representing the employers, they are themselves employees. So would you be in the position to tell us about the range of benefits that employees earn as a result of their contributions to NIS?
We have a guide to benefits booklet, but that's really not my area. That is with respect to the benefits area.
Mhm.
I might be able to give you a general guide.
Okay, even if it's not exhaustive, any information you can share, I'm sure would be helpful.
I think it may be useful if you can get a booklet, some booklets from us, which will guide you. We have a guide to benefits booklet. And
Okay,
it shows you all of the benefits that we offer for employees, and there's a self-employed booklet and an employer's booklet as well.
okay, all right. So
Those
we
are
would,
we have.
we can definitely follow through on that. And we've just been joined by Deputy Director Francis Fontinelle-Walcott. So greetings to you and welcome. And I invite you to join the conversation. We've just been hearing of having a conversation about compliance and the various requirements. With a room of HR practitioners, Deputy Director, what would be the message that you would wish to share?
Good morning.
Morning.
That's a good question, because normally we normally speak to accountants and the persons, who are responsible for the payroll payments and payments of contributions.
Mhm.
For HR practitioners, it would be, I guess, I would say it would be incumbent on them to ensure that the persons in their finance department adhere to the statutory requirements. I don't know what influence they would have in that area, but for us, the main areas, number one, is the payment of contributions, ensuring that the employees' earning schedules are submitted as required, on time, and accurately as well. That information sent in to us is accurate. That there's correct treatment of things like vacation pay. If a person is on maternity leave and they're going to pay the employee, that arrangement, is one that can work with national insurance in terms of maternity and sickness, or even when they pay persons for sickness, that they apply for the refund of contributions in a timely manner, so that they get their portion, and the employee also get their portion of the refund, because we know there's some private sector employers that do pay the employees when they're sick leave. And then the employee is expected to repay them the funds, but then they're also entitled to a refund of contributions from national insurance, both the employer and the employee in that instance. That's it. Yeah, timely payments of contributions and submission of schedules, and ensuring that there's correct treatment of leave, especially, yes, because that's one of the areas that we sometimes have problems with. Correct treatment of sick leave, especially.
No, Mrs. Mings-Mascoll would have mentioned the portal. Are you in the position to share with us NIS's sense of the extent to which beneficiaries and employers are fully utilizing the functionality afforded them through the portal?
No, I cannot. Honestly, no. I can't say.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Mings-Mascoll, I see you're back.
Yes.
Mhm. So you wanted to, I think you were looking for a booklet about the benefits. Are you able to add anything to that at this time?
You had asked about, so I just want to be clear about the benefits for an employee, and I will just roughly give the benefits that we offer here for an employee. Sickness, maternity, you can get more for maternity benefit and maternity grant, funeral grant, unemployment benefit, severance, invalidity, and old age contributory pension. But as I said, we have some booklets that I think will really assist. you.
All right, thank you very much. So we encourage our membership to reach out to NIS and secure copies of these booklets that can help us, one, to ensure that we're fully compliant, and two, to ensure that we can guide employees in terms of the benefits to which they're entitled. Ladies, thank you so very much for your time. As we wrap up now, I'll just afford each of you, starting with Mrs. Mings-Mascoll, the opportunity to share any final thoughts that you may have.
At this time, no, I don't have any.
Okay, thank you very much. And Deputy Director?
Just, I wish you all the best in your meeting. As I said in my previous email, any further information you require for us, any further presentations to be willing, to make. And with regard to severance, benefits, pensions, anything of that nature that your members may require information on, they can reach out. And because we do visit businesses during the day to make presentations as requested. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yes, we do. So
All
if
right,
it's
so
notice, or we would get together with the staff, design the presentation, and come and deliver. Yes.
all right. Thank you so very much for that, sharing that bit of information so members know that they can indeed reach out to NIS with a specific request for someone to visit their establishment and engage with them in a presentation. And thank you so very much again for giving us the time today. And we look forward to strengthening our relationship with NIS. The service that you provide is not just important to the nation, but to each and every worker within the nation. So thank you very much, ladies, for your time and for sharing your knowledge of the organization with us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You're welcome.